I want people to open their ideas about who can dance, about what dance is. Catherine Dunham says that a dancer is someone who has to dance. It's not somebody who's trained. People need to be given the opportunity to dance.
Task Force is a project that I am doing with Dance.NYC. Dance.NYC got a grant to study dance and disability in New York. The artists who are involved in this piece, we're all on the Dance.NYC task force. There are other people on the task force, but we are the dancers. And at the first meeting, there's a lot of discussion going on about funding, about ADA compliance, about all of this. And about 2 hours in, I said, you know what? All of this is really, really vital information. But if our whole purpose is about dance, we need to dance. Sitting in that meeting, I thought, how cool would this be? We take the dance artists in the room. Some of them I knew, some of them I didn't. I had only worked with one, I had only worked with Alice. And I said, everybody's going to contribute phrases, and everyone has to learn everyone else's phrase. You are not to only think about phrases that look fabulous on your body, but think about the people in the room and how we make that phrase work for the people in the room. We all have different disabilities and different abilities. And another rule was no rehearsing in advance, so that we could really get to the process.
So it starts with an undulation through the spine. In 2006, my work took a big shift because I met a woman, a visual artist, Lisa Bufano, who was also a bilateral amputee. And for 6 months, I made her a 25-minute solo, and it changed everything. As you go to the front, the right arm goes front, left arm goes front. I started seeing dance in a really different way. Even though I'd always been experimenting with different unexpected bodies, there was something about the way she moved and how I could explore what she had and make it so exquisitely beautiful in a way that I could never do. And that was really interesting to me. And so my company since then has been physically integrated, and I've always been looking for people who are very fierce, very vulnerable, and also can move in ways that are really interesting to me. And then the choreography that was interesting to me was juxtaposing everybody. And you have all these different bodies in space doing it differently. What happens? Yeah, okay, yeah. You're doing a this, and I'm doing.
I mean, it's certainly not a challenge to do the work. I mean, but I think the challenge is not in, oh, how do I take this into my body? That's the work that any dancer does. The real challenge is, how do you preserve the artistic integrity of the individual phrase so it doesn't all get smushed together? So I think to me, the challenge is not around, you know, adaptation, accommodation. The challenge is really in the work itself and really thinking about This, I want to make sure that it's, artful.
My biggest challenge when I work with people who have use of their legs is that I can't really demonstrate a lot of that. I have to try to really explain and help them to transpose what I'm doing to work for their body. And I'm sure it's the other way around for someone who is accustomed to using their legs, because wheels are not legs. And in my work, sometimes an arm starts out as an arm and it winds up taking the place of a leg in the middle, and so vice versa. And you have to know, part of the technique for the chair is you need to know where your hands are in relationship to your wheels, and where the movement is going and where it's going to wind up, and how you're going to initiate that turn, because it doesn't necessarily initiate the way a stand-up dancer would do it. So for me, as a choreographer, I have to choreograph every part for every person and be dancing in their bodies all at the same time. And it makes me dizzy sometimes. I mean, for any choreographer, the challenge is to work with the body in front of you.
There are certainly barriers to access in the arts. There are also opportunities. There are opportunities being realized by the Disability Task Force. Opportunities to question, to redefine, to generate artistry. Artistry that takes disability as a lens or as an aesthetic. Artistry with disabled artists, with disabled audiences. This dance, it's a call to action for change in arts and culture. Dance.NYC's commitment is to identify, remove, and prevent barriers to disabled people in arts and culture. Dance.NYC encourages New Yorkers to commit to a future where the arts really are for everyone.
I'm going to put it bluntly, time is short. If you look at the major urban areas, and also abroad and here and in the United States, they have thriving disability arts scenes. And I mean scenes where there is more than one person, more than one opportunity to work and group. New York thinks of itself as the dance capital of the US, and the scene here is tiny. Basically, almost everyone who is working in the field is on the task force. That's not a scene.
Many people in the mainstream dance community still do not think that what I do and dancers like myself do is really dancing. They have this preconceived idea based on the medical model that we do something different than what they do.
A lot of people perceive it as, well, you're working with people with limitations, and doesn't that limit your process and what you're able to do? It's like I'm a painter who found another color, or who keeps finding different colors to add to my palette. And I'm really trying to find the unique qualities of each person so that I can bring out their virtuosity. That's what I'm interested in. I want to see virtuosity.
Then we're going to take it down and turn our body as we take it down. I did not bring a phrase the first day because that's not the way I work. So the first day, what I'm interested in is who are the other people? And the first day I saw Alice took off, and I thought, wow, I like that. I like how fast she went. And that my conception of her was somebody, moving through space. And that I want to get that when I do my phrase. Kitty just loves to turn. She glories in it. So definitely, it's going to have that in it. I find Alexandria very intellectual, in a very positive way. Like she thinks about the dances and she thinks about levels and permutations. So I wanted to have some of that. For me, that's a very enriching way to work. So in making up the movements, I thought about, well, how would this be sitting down, and how would this be, thinking about Alexandria on a different level.
Non-disabled people are so afraid of offending people with disabilities. So we have to make everything has to be so politically correct that so many times people will come up to me after an Infinity concert and say, I didn't even notice the wheelchair. And I want to say, oh, that's too bad, because you missed 50% of what I do, It's okay. It's okay to notice the wheelchair. It's okay to notice the person in the wheelchair. I come from a classical ballet background, and we're talking about Swan Lake and Giselle and the Nutcracker and things like that. And I had the opportunity to work with some extraordinary dance artists like Eric Brun and Nureyev and Fontaine. And when I studied my Graham technique, I studied it with Martha. And when I studied my Limon technique, I studied it with Jose. My whole identity as a person was wrapped up in being a dancer. And so when I had my accident and I broke my back, I felt like that identity had been stripped from me. And there was a period of time that I had no idea who I was.
It took a long time, a very long time, just developing my own body and awareness of my technique and awareness of what was happening, to really begin to the point where I woke up one morning and I was like, okay, yeah, now I have something I do want to say. I've been really using my background in disability studies and disability aesthetics and the theorizing of that to really think about only working in a position of integrity about the body as it is, and to work with the wisdom of the body as it is, and to really be in tension and rejection of this constant position of focus on ability, and to be in this position of accommodation and adaptation that doesn't speak to me, and it doesn't speak in my work. And the last part of my work that I really began to think about is to explicitly address issues of identity, and to think about what does the Black racialized disabled body look like, and how do both those legacies and traditions and cultures speak simultaneously.
I just wanted to say, I think this project is going really, really well. I'm very pleased. Working with you all has been a joy and an honor and a privilege. I was interested in creating work that would illustrate what professional dancers with disabilities do when they make dances. what I want for the overall piece, people seeing this work, perhaps for the first time, will come to an understanding. It's one thing to have a company like mine, a company like Heidi's, where we have dancers with and without disabilities. The next frontier, and I don't know if that's going to happen in my lifetime, is to have mainstream choreographers utilizing dancers with different bodies in the work that they're already doing.
One of the things I learned in this project from the first day, I'm 68 years old. I don't, when she said, let's roll, no, I don't think so. I'm not sure what my vertebrae would do. I mean, I might attempt it, but I don't know what would happen after. So I chose not to do that. Kitty got down and Kitty rolled, and so did Alice. They can do things I can't do, just with their bodies. I already knew from the chairs the things that can be done that a human without a chair cannot do, that velocity. And when I was partnering with both of them, with both Kitty and Alice, I had this experience of giving them energy and then it just taking off. That's very exciting. There needs to be more exposure, because when people are ignorant of things, then they're afraid of it, they just don't know, they don't consider it. The people who I danced with today are professionals. They're professional dancers. They have artistry, they have discipline. So they have taken the natural drive to dance, the natural impulse to dance, and brought it up. And there's certainly dance is artistry. When you think of artistry, you think of a work of art, you think of something compelling about it. It doesn't have to be beauty.
It's been amazing for me to work with these wonderful artists, these dancers, and teach and be taught to work within their capabilities, and they make me a better dancer, and I hope I make them a better dancer.